Spiderman! That's what we're talking about today. It's Framework. I'm Al Schwartz. I got John Bernard and Joon Kim here. Sort of our superhero crew. Like Joon pops in for superhero stuff quite a bit.
I'm something of a superhero myself.
Oh, we should have rehearsed our dueling Defoes before we got on here. Mine was not at all ready for prime time. But we're talking about No Way Home mainly here today, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? Joon, kick us off.
I went to go see it early, even though I had plans to go see it with some friends initially. But like, oh man, there's one ticket. I feel like I'm going to run into spoilers, so I went to go see it myself on Thursday night. I was not that into it for about the first half, and it was going, "Oh, this is okay. This feels like a Marvel movie." And then some stuff started happening. And I went, that was pretty fun. Nitpicks aside, that was just a really good time.
Was there a specific tipping point, like a scene where it started to gel?
Like, are we fully just talking about just letting loose with whatever?
The world has seen it, right? We're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, which is very spoilerish. You don't want to have this one ruined for you. It's that kind of good. So yeah, we're going to spoil it.
So the moment it flips is when stuff started actually mattering. When and it's when Willem Dafoe just goes for it. That's when the movie really started for me.
Well, I think that's one of the best things to. I mean, we'll circle back to this. That the villains, Defoe and Molina especially, are really just going for it and not cashing a paycheck, not sleepwalking through any of this, and that's remarkable. Maybe Thomas Hayden Church aside.
I thought he was doing his best. I thought he was trying.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't think there's anything for him to do.
I mean, he wasn't there. He was an animated. He was an animated voice.
Right. They had him. He was a pile of sand.
Yeah.
Which is the character, I suppose. But in any case,
for a second. Yeah.
The thing that struck me more about this was what you're saying about things mattering. And what I was kind of amazed by this movie is so big and weird and messy, and in ways that would seem to play into all the worst comic book bullshit, and all the worst comic book bullshit revolves around how nothing really matters, and anything that seems like it matters is going to get undone, like pretty immediately. And this movie threw in all the comic book bullshit. It's magic spells all over the goddamn place, and it's magical amnesia. And man, like, I know I've gone off on it a couple times on this podcast, but I do not like amnesia as a plot device. And worldwide magical amnesia is, that's not going to be like something I like.
Was it the Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts movie? The second one did that. It had magic amnesia reign. And it was like, what? Okay.
That sounds about right.
I haven't seen those, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you spoiled the Crimes of Grindelwald there, June. But,
Butterfingers.
I'll wait for the Potter multiverse movie that like brings back, the Jude Law or whoever is in them now and officially erases Johnny Depp from canon or whatever.
They're doing that, I think, in the next one.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen is doing that with this new one coming out.
You think that they're gonna chicken out and like have to call their shots and be like, oh, we need to go to the future and get Harry Potter to help us for the
I was wondering, like, the door is open for that. That it's what people want, obviously.
I mean, they certainly don't want more Fantastic Beasts, so sure.
It'd be hilarious if they went with, we have to go back to the future and get Ron Weasley to help us. Anyway, this is not my Rupert Grint fan cast. We're supposed to be talking about Spider-Man, and what I was saying was that for all that nonsense, ultimately this movie landed in a place where a lot of the stuff ended up mattering, like moving forward in a way that took me by surprise, and I was kind of impressed by. I was also thinking about how, like, last year we were talking about Wonder Woman 1984, and how that was a movie that was sort of like derailed by how much it relied on just nonsense magic juju from a rock, and this movie is just as packed full of nonsense magic juju, but I don't know, it's put to better use to, I guess, torment the character of Peter Parker, who exists to be tormented, something that I think the filmmakers of No Way Home understand, and I think also maybe just that I have an inherent affection for Tom Holland and Zendaya in these roles, that I don't quite have a matching one for Gal Gadot and Chris Pine over in one hand. Although they were the best parts of those movies, but yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe this works. I can't believe it did.
I mean, I think you put it right there with what you first said. Like Wonder Woman '84 and this film are on like polar opposites when it comes to things mattering, like ramifications and consequences. Like there's tons of them in Far From Home. There's none in Wonder Woman '84, and that's I think what ultimately makes this so successful. I was pretty blown away by this. Honestly, this should have been a mess. This has every reason to be a mess. I mean, from the trailers, it looks like, okay, well, that'll just be some bullshit. But sure, I'll watch it. But ended up being, I mean, it's got to be the best Tom Holland Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
In terms of just flat out enjoying and it feeling like, you watch something, I'd say so.
I mean, I guess there's room for debate on that. It's not like a fait accompli, but for me, it was, for sure.
I think it's totally understandable if you're not a magic juju head,
sure,
and you just think there's just way too much Doctor Strange in this for a Spider-Man movie. Like, I would get that. I would respect that as a position if you prefer Homecoming for that reason. That's more of a simple, stripped down Spider-Man movie. I mean, for as much as Homecoming can be, because he's still like Iron Man / Spider-Man,
right?
The way people complain about it sometimes. It's incredible that this movie goes so far over the top with just immediately plunging him into, I mean, it's in the first act and he's knocking on Doctor Strange's door and saying, hey, can you brainwash the whole world for me? And Doctor Strange is like, sure. And like, that is so wild, like latter day Spider-Man shit. Like so far from like the core appeal of the character. And yet the movie contrives a way to use all of that magic juju bullshit to get him back to the most stripped down version of the character.
Impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
wild.
And I think that it's building, I mean, obviously, in many obvious ways, on the foundation of so many Spider-Man films in the last 20 years. Like, obviously, you got, all the villains and the Garfield and the Maguire of it all. But, like, beyond that, just our familiarity with this character now, with the tropes of this character, with the things that this character does, that they can flip that on its head with the Aunt May death scene, all of these choices, this movie's only possible if there's 8 Spider-Man movies that came out in the last 20 years.
And and it owes to Spider-Verse too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's almost a remake of that. In a lot of ways. And it still somehow works. Miraculous. I can't believe they pulled this off. And man, did they pull this off. Like, financially.
Can we take a moment to just pour a little liquor out for just the poor DC universe?
I wanted to talk about this, yes.
They got... This has to be exactly what they were looking to do with Flashpoint.
Yeah.
And in the exact same way that I feel like Civil War ate Batman versus Superman's lunch right before it came out, and to an extent the Infinity War Endgame duology kind of really overshadowed whatever the Justice League was supposed to be. Like, but man, like, just can't... It's like...
It's like you thought we were down and out with Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and the Eternals, but we had this, up our sleeve.
Yeah, it's very impressive that they were able to just pull out another Endgame level kind of gigantic film right at the end of the year. Kind of snuck it out to everybody.
I mean, I suppose Warner Brothers could say, well, that's not Marvel. This is a Sony movie. Let's I keep jokingly thinking, let's congratulate Amy Pascal for a big success. And Pascal Pictures.
Yeah,
I mean, right. They did a lot more than just nod to the Sony movies. Like they really. And I came at this not having seen the Andrew Garfield and Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess it had just been too soon of a turnaround there for me to see it in the theater, and then the word of mouth was pretty bad, and I just skipped them. And now I'm looking back and going, man, like, was Andrew Garfield the best Spider-Man all along? Like, did I just miss out on that?
No, he was not.
There are really, I mean, you're looking at like a big fan of Amazing Spider-Man 2 here, so I think there's, I think it's worth checking out for that big mess of a movie that is pretty gonzo. I mean, some weird stuff happens in that one. It's the first Andrew Garfield one that I'm not that big a fan.
That might be the worst Spider-Man film, the first Andrew Garfield one. But the second one is it's some dumb bullshit, Al.
It is
really like June will tell you this is a good film or a worthwhile film. It's just some really dumb bullshit.
I just say
Magic Blood. It's Dane DeHaan. It's Batman and Robin shit. It's all the bad things.
I say it's worth watching. I never said it's it's worthwhile.
It's frustrating and obnoxious.
For my money, like I'm a Spider-Man, fan. Like he could be a pretty bad. It could be the worst Spider-Man movie and still be a pretty good movie in my books. Like I don't think Spider-Man 3 is that bad.
No, I mean, there's worse Spider-Man movies now.
But I like all the Holland movies, and I love Spider-Man 2, the Raimi Spider-Man 2. I guess the only way I step out of line with the general like geek consensus there is that I'm not super hot on Raimi's first Spider-Man movie.
I'm similar to that one too. Although the past 20 years have made that movie's positives shine more than it did back when I first saw it.
It's been a little while, but it's always had my favorite Spider-Man villain performance in it, in Defoe.
Oh, I prefer Molina.
It's I think either are a fine choice, but Defoe is just kind of like the perfect guy for me to do this kind of character, especially when it's going to be as broad as the Green Goblin, a cackling businessman on a glider dressed up as a goblin, for fuck's sake. That's insane. And no,
I think you're 100% right about this, that there was never a better match of like character and role than Willem Dafoe in the Green Goblin. Like, that is a platonic ideal of casting that I'm sure they didn't even like audition anybody else, because why would you bother if you could get him?
Yeah, and so it was of course a big thrill to see him again in this film, and that character lands again. That all these characters land again is nothing short of amazing.
Except maybe Sandman.
I mean, he lands as much as he did originally.
He has some more time to do. I mean, what the stuff that's being done with him in Spider-Man 3 is kind of bullshit. Like it's retconning and
big time.
But Hayden Church is such a good presence that he kind of makes it work anyway. And here he doesn't. He's the fifth of the Sinister Five here.
Oh, I'd put him ahead of the Lizard. I mean,
the Lizard.
Oh yeah, you're right.
The Super Mario Brothers Goomba is probably the least of the.
He did. That's okay. That wasn't just me seeing.
No, that was it. He was criticized for that look from the Amazing Spider-Man 1. It's like, why did they go with that design? I was not that big a fan of Jamie Foxx playing Jamie Foxx this time. He made some big swings in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but they basically just hand waved that away.
It's a terrible performance in Spider-Man.
Which is. But I said it's he makes choices, and in this one, it feels like there's like no choices going on at all aside from, I'm on a big blue screen set. Just tell me where to say my lines. It had that kind of just energy, but he's Jamie Foxx, so he's charismatic, so it's fine. But it's just one of those, just like, okay, just hand wave the thing away. I mean, gaslight, was it not gaslight? Lampshade the thing away.
Yeah, I mean, I one thing I didn't understand here. I mean, I guess the thing that they're doing by the midpoint of this movie is deciding that we can cure all these villains. And I understood how Doc Ock is being like, his mind is being poisoned by the tentacle AI, so they cure him that. They can sort of detoxify Green Goblin's blood or whatever to maybe calm him down a bit. You make Sandman, just a man,
somehow,
rather than a bag of sand. Sure, whatever. That makes sense. You turn the Lizard back into a human. I did not understand at all what they were doing with Electro. They were like, we're going to drain your battery, and then you won't be evil anymore.
I mean, it's all, as you said, it's all magic juju, regardless of whether it's called magic or not. So I just go with it. It's basically a ticking clock on his chest for the big moment.
Right, but what I didn't understand was for the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and the Lizard, I could see how there was an alternate personality that came into play by having this whatever gave them their powers also kind of made them schizophrenic or evil, and whatever. And for the purposes of this movie, we can cure schizophrenia with a serum, and fine. But my understanding of Electro, again, I haven't seen that movie, was not that the electricity turned him evil, and he didn't seem repentant really at any point. So we're just going to take your powers away and that's it.
I mean, if there had been some continuity with Amazing Spider-Man 2, Max was not a bad guy. He was like a big Poindexter dork that was, people shit that life had shit on him all this time, and finally he got a taste of power. So he was not a bad guy, which is why it's nice to see Andrew Garfield and Jamie Foxx get a little scene together, saying, like, it's good to see you again, that kind of thing, which is a very sweet moment. Like, it's like the one moment where it felt like in continuity somewhat with the movie he came from.
Such a generous read on Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I know.
I mean, it's like Jim Carrey and Batman Forever kind of performance.
It is. It is basically that.
Don't they both have bad hair pieces?
Yeah,
pretty much.
To start with,
yeah. Too. He had a what is it in the movie? Jamie Foxx has a gap in his teeth, and when he falls into the vat of electric eels, his teeth magically lose that gap. There's a close-up that specifically does this. Like, that's the kind of movie. That's the kind of movie it is. That's why I like it. It makes those swings.
It's electric eel orthodontistry.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. Oh God.
Like, his whole thing is that he, like, Electro, he just wanted a friend. That's his motivation. Like, he gets obsessed with Spider-Man the way Jim Carrey's Riddler got obsessed with Batman.
Yeah, it is very much like Jamie Foxx from In Living Color, tasked with playing a big nerd on In Living Color. It's that kind of performance. It's I guess which is similar to what Jim Carrey did on In Living Color, but it's
I never thought about that.
Right, but it's broad to the point of just like you feel insulted. Sorry, I want to give you your platform to defend Amazing Spider-Man 2.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
I'm more interested in talking about Amazing Spider-Man in terms of Andrew Garfield than Jamie Foxx, because he was sort of the revelation here to me. Not that I didn't know he was a great actor previously, but I had heard his movies were bad, and I had also heard that the criticism was sort of all around how, oh, his Spider-Man's kind of bad because they tried to make him like a cool dude, which goes against the core of the character of Spider-Man. It's that he can be fun and likable, but he's not cool.
That was one of the problems I had with the first Amazing Spider-Man, and the second one, just for the most part, just kind of does away with most of that. The second movie was a bit of a it was kind of a course correction from itself.
Such as it is, yes.
Like, the first one was shot digitally. It was dark. It was moody, and the first one then went 35 millimeter, super colorful, super bright.
That's all good stuff. You're right. I mean, yeah, the first one is trying to be Batman Begins with Spider-Man, which does not work fundamentally. And well, here's a good example of why his Peter Parker doesn't work very well. Like, at the beginning, he's not the kid getting bullied. He's like the kid who sees another kid getting bullied and gets in the way, and just like steps up for him. That's the sort of thing that they did. He can't actually be the dork. He has to be too cool. He's got a skateboard and shit. It's basic stuff like that.
Gwen Stacy likes him immediately. Like, they're just like goo eyes for each other from the very beginning. So, which is different from the Raimi ones for sure, but it does put Peter in a position where he doesn't feel like that underdog anymore.
Yeah,
but that's the whole character, though.
Right.
It should be that, if nothing else. Like, the Holland movies are an object lesson. Sorry. The Holland movies are an object lesson to how much you can change around Spider-Man if you could keep that sort of core of the Peter Parker character. You can mess around with his costume and his powers and his villains and even his origin story quite a bit. But he's got to be a good-hearted sort of schmuck.
Yep.
Yeah. And in Holland's case, because he actually looks like a kid, like he was convincing as a kid, that really helped too.
Yeah, Garfield never quite had that. He looked about as young as he ever, he hasn't really aged, but he did look the exact same 15 years ago. So he never quite convinced in that way either. But you're not wrong, Al. He's really good in this movie, in No Way Home. Probably better than he was in either of his movies, which I think is just a measure of the material he's been given. And I think they did a very smart thing in kind of making him the third wheel Spider-Man in this.
Right.
Consciously the third wheel Spider-Man, and they had to no, you're cool too, man. All that stuff, that played very well.
He was the one with like actively something to prove.
Yeah. Right.
And that came through.
He was the least cool Spider-Man, at least in their eyes, like in his own eyes. which I guess is such a really good course correction from what you were talking about. But then there's also that he's the one who has something to prove because he's the only Spider-Man who's went through the actual comics accurate Gwen Stacy arc,
Right.
and so that moment where he saves Mary Jane and then is all choked up over it, like even not having seen his movies, I was stunned. I was stunned how hard that hit me.
Yeah. It's like you have levels of Spider-Man knowledge just like compounding on each other. So even if you haven't seen that movie, you know what it means to him. And Andrew Garfield just plays that really well. So my friend that I did eventually see it with, like she told me like she was like I was crying and June was next to me laughing. It's like I was laughing because I was moved.
I totally buy that. I totally see that how your reaction, your emotional reaction, that included laughing.
Because it's because MJ is okay. It's Spider-Man is just like I'll be fine. I'm okay. I'm okay. It's sweet. It's like it's just the sweetness is really what kind of made this movie sing for me. Just that the sweetness of those three being together, like Andrew Garfield, the least cool one, saying I always wanted brothers, and he's just having a great time. Right.
Well, and just like getting complained that he didn't get to fight aliens. Never
right.
did.
And having those guys, those guys all really showed up to play and really just showed up as just emotional open books. Like they didn't lose a step from when they were Spider-Man. And the movie gave them time to really, to not just be cameos. There's like 45 good minutes in the movie that's just the three of them. And man, did that pay off. That really works. This actually serves as a, because neither of those films series ended. The Maguire or the Garfield didn't get like a closing episode, so this kind of functions as a finale for all three Spider-Mans in a way. I'm sure we'll see more Tom Holland. I'm sure. I mean, honestly, it's Marvel. We might see more of all three of them at this point. But
you'd be foolish to bet against them at this point. They decided they wanted more Tobey Maguire. They could get him.
Yeah, making lemonade out of lemons. That's what they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Although I would argue that I actually love Spider-Man 3 as a very somber conclusion to that trilogy, even though it wasn't supposed to be a trilogy. They were working on a fourth one, but I'm a fan of the way that one ends. Like it's like what third superhero movie in a trilogy does this kind of thing.
I should rewatch that. I only saw it the one time, and it was such a it gave such a bad impression that one time.
I mean, it's grown on me over time. Like it's just one of those. It's like I'm gonna like choose to ignore like the many flaws of this movie and focus on the stuff that it's doing, that I think it's doing really well. And and as I grow up, I'm really into the way it frames the Mary Jane and Pete. I think Dunst gets the most to ever do in those movies in the third one.
That's probably true.
Playing up her downtime while Peter's on the high. Peter's on his high. His the peak of his life. They love me. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. I think a lot of stuff in Spider-Man 3. Like, there's too much stuff.
Oh yeah,
but I like
way too much stuff.
I'm guessing that all of us here are totally on board with just dorky, dark Peter Parker. Like,
I am. Oh, I am. For
funny.
Sure.
Whatever. I mean, it's at the expense of being emotionally engaged with that story in any way. I don't know.
I don't know that I would have bought the Tobey Maguire going like murdering the Sandman or whatever that was going to be the thing. Like I think it's great that his Dark Knight of the Soul was just
is a Dark Knight of the Soul.
It involves so much swing dancing.
But is that not just a sign of Raimi not giving a shit about the Venom plotline and not really wanting to take it seriously? Like it's just sort of like, oh, this is what I have to do. Fine, I'm going to make it ridiculous.
I don't know. I think that it was his. I mean, we all know that he doesn't like the concept or the character, but I think he did what he would want to with that character.
Make it ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean,
it is.
I mean, it's like a payoff to the raindrops keep falling on my head sequence in the second one. It's like the dark mirror version of that,
which is magnificent.
Yeah, which Peter is. Peter. Even at his darkest, he's a sweet guy, so his darkness is going to be like that of a Poindexter.
I don't know. It's just that he is sweetness, but I mean, I think I agree with you, John. You're right that it does show Raimi's disinterest in like the quote unquote proper Venom storyline of like exploiting Spider-Man's dark side, or or at least going dark in the way that we think of, like when Batman goes off the reservation, or even like maybe we'll talk about Hawkeye a little bit later, but when Hawkeye had his Dark Night of the Soul, it was that he became a hooded badass with a sword that was murdering criminals, and I love the idea. I love the idea, especially as time goes on. I like that the idea that Spider-Man 3 puts across, that when you corrupt, or when you give like a put upon dork a lot of power, they might become like, they can be corrupted by that power, but they're not going to become cool. They're just going to become a dork who's also an asshole.
I feel like time has really, borne that out over the past, couple decades too. Like,
I agree.
Right.
I think time, yeah. I think that was proven. There's something there that 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 put upon dorks did not want to see in 2007.
Prescient. Yeah.
No, this isn't how I be.
Well, shit. Now I feel like I do want to revisit those after Far From Home, and I think this might be the final push.
I mean, it is a very Raimi, like, whether he likes Venom or not, it is a very Raimi sensibility that he put onto it. It's a very old fashioned comedy routine, which his movies were full of. With Jameson and Ted Raimi, his cameos,
Bruce Campbell,
and what is it like? Even at his darkest, he does do some dark stuff. He does like a throat jab on Harry, blows up his face. He does think he killed Sandman, and his line is "good riddance." That's as dark as he gets. Even when he does do something terrible, "good riddance" is his one-liner. And then he musses up his hair and he has dark mascara.
Yeah. And he swing dances, as a lot of us did at the nadir of our lives. I was a little too young for the swing dancing phenomenon, actually.
I'd like to be able to swing dance. I just never had the courage to do it.
You're one alien meteorite away from having that kind of confidence, Joon.
He hits Mary Jane. That
really? Does that happen in there?
Yeah, when during a struggle, he's fighting at the waitress, the diner, the singing diner. He's struggling with the bouncer, and then Mary Jane tries to stop him, and he inadvertently he takes a swing and knocks her down.
Oh, so it's not like a cold open hand slap or anything.
No, he doesn't hit her.
It's not like him. Yeah, it's not like that. But it does. But it's it's Peter Parker. It still makes me go, oh no, that's not good.
No, not good.
Yeah, and I think there is something there, like we're saying, that there's something prescient in a weird way about that empowering the dorks is not going to make them be nicer to women.
And this was even before the symbiote. He was already not being that great to her. That's what I really like about the movie. The symbiote is just it exacerbated something that was already happening.
That is sort of a weird thing about the symbiote, though, is that it's the premise of that whole storyline is that, okay, Peter Parker is a dork who got extraordinary power by being bitten by a radioactive spider, right? So now he's like above normal people, and he handled that pretty well, right? He became a hero, and he still retained a nice guy.
Not initially. There was consequences that led to him being doing good with it, which is the Spider-Man thing.
The alien comes along and gives him like a little more power, and like all of a sudden, like he becomes drunk with that power of like going from, if I remember the like Marvel trading cards correctly, from when I was in 5th grade, I believe regular Spider-Man is at a strength 4 level, and then Venom is at a strength 5 level. So
goddamn power levels. I hate that stuff.
Well, Captain America's at like a 2, right? So like going from like 4 times as strong as a normal human did not corrupt him, but going from 4 to 5 times, like that made him drunk with power. And it's been something a little weird about that to me.
Well, it's a parasitic life form that's also like urging you to do your more negative, more evil. I don't know why I'm defending Venom. I'm the guy who doesn't like it.
Maybe there was actually room in No Way Home for Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to express a little more sympathy for the villains, who like I said, they all have this sort of like the lizard personality or the tentacle personality or the goblin thing. To be like, yeah, man, I've been there. When you have got that thing that's making you stronger, but it's also whispering dark things in your ear. Like it's a rough time.
It's like that's what I told Topher Grace, but he wouldn't listen. Yeah.
So,
but yeah,
they were all like I think mentioned J. Jonah Jameson a moment ago. He's the one guy I thought really didn't get to shine here. I actually like Sandman. I
agree.
They didn't get much out of J.K. Simmons coming back, which was a shame.
It's a boring version of J.K. Jameson.
It's a boring JJJ. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was like they tried to do a little bit of Alex Jones stuff, but in the end, beyond that, he was just basically a plot underliner. It's like, Spider-Man is at his darkest, and he gets a big moment on the TV screen. But that's about all he does.
Yeah, he fell through the cracks. I mean, like something was not going to get full play here. If it wasn't going to be Dr. Octopus or the Green Goblin or Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, or Doctor Strange or Aunt May, I guess it was going to be J. Jonah Jameson.
I guess so. Yeah.
And it's a shame because like that was so exciting to see him come back at the very end of Far From Home, and he is so good in that role. But the movie functions fine even with him as a very marginal figure in it.
It's true. Yeah. And you can't really complain about when you're getting this Molina performance and this Defoe performance, and all these things are clicking right boxes. I would say also, as a very big Doctor Strange fan, as I've mentioned on this podcast, I don't think he comes off very well in this film.
No, he doesn't.
And part of that is that Doctor Strange never really comes off that well. He's always a bit of an asshole. But in this, he seemed like a very grumpy, older guy, and not much fun to be around. I don't know if it set him up as well as I would have liked for the next film.
I don't think the grumpiness is what came off badly. I think the grumpiness was a great counterpoint to like the teenage characters. I just think it's the ludicrous level of irresponsibility that he's operating.
Doesn't help either. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then he's a dick about it. Like, come on. Yeah. Oh well. I don't mean to complain about this film. I had a lot of fun. But yeah, there's a lot to juggle, a lot to going on, and I don't know that it all lands. I mean that's not unlike the best of these though, like the biggest of these at least. I would say this lands probably quality wise somewhere around Endgame, but Endgame has this kind of undeniable event sheen to it, and the experience of watching Endgame and all the reveals. Like, I mean, we were talking about how far away they were from another one that size, and hey, they found it. They did it again right away.
Yeah, Well, but I mean, I think it does operate like Endgame in a lot of ways. I would have thought in a more like niche fashion because, well, Endgame was tying together all these different Marvel sub franchises that have built up over the last 10 years. This is operating on a similar level, but just it's all Spider-Man stuff and stretched out over a longer period of time. That we're going back to the Raimi Spider-Mans,
2002.
Yeah, and I would say that has a much narrower appeal, except maybe not according to the box office or whatever. And I mean, who knows what to make of that because we're still under a plague conditions, and it's kind of the first time that we've been able to have a blockbuster opening weekend.
How was your guys' crowd reactions? Like, what was it like seeing in the theater? Did you guys get good reactions?
Well, I kind of conspired to go at the least populous time,
on like
a Tuesday early show, to try to avoid crowds altogether. And it was still pretty crowded. But it was all people doing what I was doing, trying to avoid a crowd. So they were, I guess, a bit muted. I really did kind of feel like I wish I'd seen this on an opening night. But then
I told a friend to go. It's like, if you're going to go see it right now, because like now would be the best. Because he loved seeing Endgame in a crowded theater, whooping and hollering. So knowing that, it's like if you like that, you should go right now. So he did, and
before people were spoiled.
Yeah, he had a great time.
I had a really good theater condition in that I was sitting next to an 11-year-old. My stepson, and he was just vibing with it, loving it.
Yeah.
Partly is that we haven't been able to go to a Marvel movie in the theater for so long, and I don't even know how many of the Raimi and Garfield Spider-Mans he's seen, because I haven't watched those with him, but I've watched like every other Marvel movie with him. So he was loving all the Doctor Strange stuff. and he seemed to be following along just fine.
Yeah, they're designed to be like, even if you haven't seen them or just haven't seen them in a long time, like, they give you what you need to know. I mean, the performances, give you a certain amount. And for a kid, like, it's all going to be exciting. Like, I wouldn't have cared if I was a kid.
I think there is a level of cultural osmosis, especially with Spider-Man or things like, Batman too. I'm sure some of the really top tier, because Spider-Man is definitively A tier superhero at this point, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he might be
I think
number one under maybe Batman. Maybe Batman's above him. That's it at this point. And I doubt Batman's going to make so much money when it comes up.
I mean, I would say that the Trinity, the top three, is Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and you could debate what the ordering of that is. I think it probably depends on the era a bit, but
for sure.
I mean, and I think leading up to like pre-MCU, I said like those are the top three, and then if you're running out of top five, it's probably Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk that have the biggest
Wolverine. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe Wolverine, but Wolverine never had a TV show like the Incredible Hulk had or Wonder Woman had.
Right, that's true. Yeah, he's newer.
I'm talking about outside of like comic fandom, just like general public perception.
Right.
And then post MCU, I think Iron Man has probably moved up there.
Sure.
To be equal with Wonder Woman at least.
I mean, but he's definitely just the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. Like, there's no other version of Iron Man anyone gives a shit.
Well, that's true. Yeah, yes, he's Iron Man for everyone around the world. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. You couldn't do a Flashpoint thing or whatever, a multiverse with the Iron Mans because there are no other Iron Mans to mine.
But I mean, I think you're probably going to see Robert Downey Jr. come back in some capacity now.
Probably, yeah. no doubt.
I mean, you can just do whatever now, right? Well, we're going to bring him back when it's important, when it means something. And it'll be like 10 years from now. The whole thing will be flagging again, and they'll bring it back with, nope, Robert Downey Jr.'s back. Another dimension, whatever.
It's like, shit, I gotta go see this too.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Can I throw out some gripes with this movie?
Yeah.
I have two. Yeah. One, Matt Murdock felt pretty hardcore stapled on here.
Well, he was. Yeah.
Well, he did have a necessary plot function, which is like, we're going to erase all those legal questions that might have.
Which goes into, that goes into one of my nitpicks, but yeah, continue.
I mean, you could have done without that. Like, this is a long movie, and it's overstuffed. There's plenty of other stuff going on, and for as well as they wove in all the other stuff, all the different Spider-Men and all the different villains, and the Doctor Strange of it all, and he felt tacked on. And it's weird to single out one thing in a movie this overstuff is feeling tacked on, but that's just how it felt to me. The other thing is, I was okay. Now we get to magical amnesia.
Yeah,
I am so confused by how this is supposed to work going forward. I love what it's supposed to do going forward. That it is taking this Tom Holland version of Spider-Man, who is a fantastic Spider-Man right from the jump, but also got sort of started pretty deep along the Spider-Man journey, where he like was an Avenger to begin with, and has all this advanced tech, and he's like fully together and happy with Mary Jane, like before he's out of high school, and never really went through the early growing pains part of the Spider-Man story, which is where a lot of the great Spider-Man stuff comes from, and was certainly where like the character is formed and why he's still relatable and fun to hang out with, even when he's doing the cosmic Infinity War shit in like the comics or whatever. So I think it's great that this movie manages to reset him to a more ground level version of the character, who still has, and who now I guess has to do all the romantic beats over again.
Weird, but
in a way that does that reset without completely erasing everything that came before, which is something I've talked about with, I think Endgame did really well, how it undoes the snap without really undoing the consequences of that for this character, for as much as this movie is just about resetting the character and like undoing the whole thing about how everybody knows who he is, stuff, it does that in a way that still lands with real consequences for the character.
Gigantic consequences, really. Yeah. The most he's ever faced. I think that's really what gives this film strength. But yes, I'm similarly unsure of how they're going to deal with that going forward.
Yeah. No, so it's great how they did that generally. What I was very confused about is the scene at the grave the graveside when they talk about like he's talking to Happy Hogan who doesn't recognize him anymore, but he knows Aunt May.
Right. It's like, how do
And
you
he
know
says,
it?
"I
It's
knew
like,
him
how do you
through
know it?
Spider-Man." It's like,
Right.
what does Happy Hogan think his relationship with Spider-Man was in this post magic spell world? I can't figure out any way that there's anything consistent.
I had the same same nitpick, same question. That scene was the one who's like, yeah, it's like, is it just a brain fog, or did this spell contrive a completely different set of circumstances that would lead to, how do you know Spider-Man through Aunt May? Because Aunt May didn't operate with Spider-Man,
Right.
as any kind of representative. I guess
How does he think he met Aunt May? He says he thinks he's met her through Spider-Man, but then what is his relationship with Spider-Man?
Right.
That he still had a relationship with Spider-Man as Spider-Man, but not as Peter Parker, even though in everything we've seen, he met him as Peter Parker and knew it all along. So yeah, that's very, very confusing.
I think the answer is that it's too confusing to answer. I think that there's no satisfactory way to address that.
Well, that's okay. This is where we get to Wonder Woman 84 territory.
Yeah, it's done in a way where whatever next movie tries to deal with it, they'll make up their own parameters. Like I feel like it's one of those situations. They'll make up their own parameters to try to mine some kind of dramatic arc from. So for now, it's basically up in the air, is what I think.
Yeah, it's a problem for future movies for sure.
Yeah,
like it's not really a problem with this movie. And one thing I've learned, it would be a fool to bet against them at this point. Like every time it seems like you've run up against a wall of as far as you can push this nonsense, they've always found a way to pivot out of it so far.
I mean, it does seem that this could be an off-ramp for Tom Holland's Spider-Man from the MCU. Like, it could be set up in such a way that he no longer has any dealings with the regular MCU stuff, and now he's just going to be fighting Venom and Kraven and Dr. Morbius or whatever the hell they want to do, and it can be isolated and separate, and nobody has to talk about it anymore because they forgot about it. They could do
I'd be fine with solo Spider-Man movies. However, I don't think that can happen because I think the Marvel Universe needs him now, like more than ever. Having lost Iron Man and Captain America, like not just in the universe that they're dead because you can contrive a way to bring them back, but like contractually, those guys are gone.
Right.
And then having also lost Chadwick Boseman, who was sort of situated to be one of the centers of this universe.
Yes.
And I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Black Panther 2. But
it's a movie I have no faith in. I'll tell you what. I
don't think and also it seems like maybe they were kicking around the idea of like having Letitia Wright step up some more for him, but she's also maybe more of a controversial figure than
that they ever expected
that she wasn't in 2016. So maybe that's not going to work out great.
I have a theory for that I think that no one's thought of yet, which is that they have a Academy Award winner, legit movie star, just on their roster, and everyone forgets about him. As Daniel Kaluuya. Give him and Lupita Nyong'o like central roles. I don't know how you conspire to make that character more important, but he's there. He's right fucking there.
Well, anybody can. Yeah, I mean, anybody can like be the next one to eat whatever the lotus is and become the next Black Panther if you contrive it that way. I just think, for as great an actor as Daniel Kaluuya is, going off of the first Black Panther movie, I would rather see it go to M'Baku.
Yeah, him too, absolutely. It's they got lots
Winston
of folks.
Duke's great.
They have potential. It's just going to be really hard to make sense of it. That's a problem for next year, and maybe they'll figure it out again. They pulled this one off. It does seem like
they can make sense of this.
I mean, it sounds like the Disney Sony Marvel thing is working out well, and they plan to continue doing it. So I actually don't expect this to be the end of Tom Holland and the Marvel.
I think they have said officially that, like, yes, this we all like money. We're going to keep doing this. But you recall there was a moment when there was.
Thank God they reassured us of that.
Like there was a moment when even this one might not have been in the MCU.
Yeah.
Whatever that thing was, where they were like fighting about it in public for a
Right.
little while.
Right.
I think they've figured it out by now, but yeah, I don't know. It could have been why it was written this way. It has the potential to just shutter it off and do its own thing and have him fight Venom.
I could also see this going in a certain way that because it's not anymore, but Sony was backing the money for the James Bond movies, the Daniel Craig James Bond movies for until this recent one, and that was a series where every movie felt like, all right, now we got the James Bond we love, he's back, and the next movie is going to pay off on that, and that kept not happening. So I can see this being a situation where we got the Spider-Man we wanted back, and the next movie is just going to be another, Peter, we need your help for this big monster.
We need you in space again.
We need you in space again. Like I could completely see that happening.
Yeah, so that's a phenomenon that's come up like in the, I guess, post Batman Begins Casino Royale world, where we're now like we're strip mining these characters everybody's very familiar with, and so part of that is going back farther than we maybe had previously and doing origin stories and prequels or things that are set up like prequels, and so they're always like about to get to the thing that
and then they'll backtrack it with the next movie every single time.
The way that Zack Snyder has ended up making like 4 Superman movies, and people are saying no, but now we got to a point where we can do a real Superman. It's just
next time.
He was never going to get there. Sorry, well, I don't know if the street level Spider-Man can really exist in the MCU proper.
So that's what I'm kind of wondering about. Like, it'd be nice if we get it, but it's one of those where like they always aim for it and then they chicken out. Like that's what happened with Amazing Spider-Man. Like those are supposed to be smaller budget, more intimate movies, but studios can't help themselves, and then they pump more money into it, like beef this thing up.
Well, and after this movie made $1 billion, it's not. They're not going to go. He's not going to go fight. I don't know. A mobster. It's not going to happen. Kingpin be damned. As much as I'd like to see that.
It did this it did set him. I mean, it made pretty definitive moves. I mean, I guess you can get him in space pretty quickly. I suppose if you really want.
No problem. Wong, hey Spider-Man, I remembered you because of a spell. We need you in space.
Right.
Done. It's how they did Shang-Chi. Actually, they could just do that forever.
Yeah, but they went to a lot of trouble here to set him up for that, and.
They've gone to a lot of trouble before. Every Thor movie ends this way. Something that they have to reverse in the first 10 minutes of the next one. They'll work their way out of it, And I mean, I'm curious. Right. I think they have to make these at a quick pace because of the deal. So I mean, it could be like 2 years, and we'll have another one.
And you got Tom Holland saying like, "It'd be sad if I'm still doing this when I'm 30. Pay me more money."
This does kind of point to the one thing that I was really thinking about during this, which is there have been the 3 big movies of this season, of the holidays this year. I mean, one of them is Ghostbusters Afterlife, a bit of a stretch, but still, that was a pretty big hit. This one and Matrix Resurrections. These are all 3 films that are selling you back something, an older property, a movie, something from 20 years, 30 years ago, selling your nostalgia back to you. And I'm nuts. They all kind of did a good job of it. Like they all kind of succeeded in doing something that was interesting and unique and original with this sort of debased idea. This premise that is mercenary and shouldn't work and is bad on its face. They all kind of pulled it off. I think Spider-Man pulls it off the most of the 3.
I'd say so. Yeah.
I haven't seen those other 2 yet, so I can't speak to that directly, except that I think that goes back a lot farther than this holiday season. I think that's been going on for at least 15 years.
I mean, certainly in a world where the sequel Star Wars trilogy exists, like it's
Jurassic World.
Yeah, that's a good example.
However many Rocky movies, whatever.
Well, maybe what's impressive is that this is when it seems like they kind of figured out how to do it. But
I'd say the Matrix Resurrections is not a hit.
No, very much so. Very much
divisive.
Yeah.
Personally, I was not a fan of how Ghostbusters ended, but I was enjoying it up until a certain point.
Well,
in terms of
what's weird about that,
they made 2 attempts with Ghostbusters now to do this.
That's true.
The weirdest thing about the new Ghostbusters is it's it's like the first like hour and change of that movie is completely different, nothing at all like the original.
Right,
like it's
and
the most dissimilar.
That's the part I enjoyed of it.
Yeah, and then it becomes the most similar. It's
yeah.
very weird. Like
that's where it lost me.
Yeah, and as opposed to Matrix, which is like very on knowing and on its face about like, yep, this is this thing we're doing. Remember the Matrix? You remember how that made you feel? Well, we're going to talk about that, and that's kind of like the point of it. This one I think squares the nut the most. This one, actually has an emotional component to every choice it makes, and that's very impressive. And it seems really hard to do. Like, we're talking about Jurassic World, stuff like that. That just falls on its ass trying to do this stuff. This is it. Yeah, like they were able to pull this off is remarkable, and also I think probably unsustainable and probably really bad news for movies for the next 5 to 6 years or so, when we're going to keep seeing every possible version of this.
Where every movie now wants to do a multiverse.
Yeah,
every movie
if we got to do like Ace Ventura coming back, stuff like that is going to happen now.
The only reason why I'm more sanguine about that than you are is because I think that, well, you're right. Like, this was very successful at that, and from a certain point of view, that is a very debased enterprise. And if people are of course going to chase whatever is successful, that's one way to do it. But what I'm not really that concerned about, is this just going to be the future of blockbuster filmmaking? Is even if like the studios really want to do this, it's just it's unsustainable. It's impossible. The groundwork you have to lay is in order to do it at this level and make it work, you need to do 20 years of groundwork to get to this one movie. And nobody's got the patience for that shit.
Well, no, there's still
you could do it with the Aliens franchise. Like, don't skip 3 and 4. You can save them all.
Yeah, let's bring Sigourney Weaver back. Fuck it, same character, whatever.
Multiple versions of Ripley. The Alien franchise did that in 2001, right? Like whatever Resurrection came out.
Yeah, and Prometheus is a version of it too. It's shit. I guess.
Like, there are certain franchises that they can. I mean, I think the Terminator franchise has been groping towards this for like 3 or 4 entries now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe you can do it with the Alien franchise. You can try it. DC's going to make their attempt because they have to.
Day late and a dollar short, man. It's going to look so shitty compared to this. I'm very excited.
And maybe you can do a James Bond version of it, but there's really like not that many. You need decades of material to mine for this, and you just can't make decades of material on the spot in order to fuel one movie, like as your business practice.
Well, the problem is you're just going to start seeing anything that was ever popular. We're running out of Disney cartoons to adapt, so we're going to have to start doing, like, I don't know, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, live action.
Oh, that's right. Wreck-It Ralph too basically did that too with the Disney princesses.
I'm sorry. Are we recording this in like 2014? Like, has this not been happening for like the better part of a decade already?
You make a fine point.
This is a good one now.
I mean, it's just a bummer that these 3 all happened, and now that they were successful. I guess Matrix was a big bomb, but otherwise, that they're just going to keep trying this thing, and it's we're not going to get a course corrective. We're going to get, I don't know. What we're gonna do? Despicable Me Origins. We're gonna do.
They'll probably be a Pixar multiverse movie pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly. All this shit's coming back. Live action Toy Story. We're gonna just
live action Toy Story. What a grotesque!
Oh God,
concept.
They're doing the Lightyear thing. It's happening all in a
That's
fashion
true.
already.
That's true. It's
I don't even know what that is, but I don't want to know. Look, I still got to watch The Matrix Resurrection,
right?
And we might do an episode on that. Like, we may have to just do a whole episode based around this idea of multi-verses and IP strip mining and all of that, because it's a whole big nut. We could chew on a lot of that.
It's going to come up a lot in Matrix, promise you.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there about it. It is very indicative of just a crumbling empire trying to like keep pointing like no, the Leaning Tower piece is not over yet, but and that I think there's some interesting stuff there. But this is a Spider-Man podcast, and now it's over. Thanks, guys.
Do we want to say a quick word on Hawkeye? Poor little forgotten Hawkeye?
I don't think so.